What's up, you guys? I was telling you earlier I was going to do a video, just more talk about my take on a few little things here. A couple of issues. One would be a new training requirement for truck driver, for new CDL drivers. I still can't get good detail out of it. I can't seem to find good literature that gives a breakdown of what exactly is going to be required. And really, everything I'm finding only talks about who's actually going to be affected by it. And what this is called is ELDT, Entry Level Driver Training. It's something that's being implemented next month in February. I want to say it was the 9th, if I recall. Sometime in the earlier half of next month, we'll just say. And what it entails is that anybody who is, if they don't already have a commercial learner's permit or CLP by that date, they're going to have to go through this ELDT process, whatever the hell it is. And my understanding, at least through the grapevine, is that it involves proficiency training requirements in a number of areas before they're allowed to even test for their CDL. And actually, it kind of sounds a little bit like getting a private pilot's license, which actually is that same way, where you have a bunch of different tasks or things that you have to do. And you have to be able to demonstrate proficiency on every single one of those tasks. Basically get signed off on all the checkbox stuff before they'll let you have your CDL. Or even, actually, before they'll even let you test for your CDL. But how much exactly is covered by that, I don't know. I've been trying to figure that out. If it, does it cover stuff like trip planning, not following GPS, which I'm going to talk about some more here. Weather planning, how to deal with emergency situations, and scaling and weighing, all these kind of different things. That's what I would put in there. But and there have to be basically certifications on the tester side of it as well. So I don't really, I can't really get good info out of what exactly it's going to cover, but who would actually cover is going to be, like I say, anybody who doesn't already have a CLP by the time this thing kicks in on February, we'll just say 9th. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I'll find out if I'm wrong later. Also, if you're going to be upgrading from a Class B to a Class A CDL, and you don't do that until after February 9, that will also affect you. And even if you have a Class A, if you are going to be adding hazmat, school bus, or passenger endorsements to your CDL, that will also have a ELDT requirement. Again, I don't know what all the details are on that. I really would like to know. I've been looking on the FMCSA website for this program and a couple, I think one or two other sites, and they don't really talk about it. They just say who's going to be affected by it, pretty much, and that's about all I can get out of them. So anybody has any more specific insight into it, throw a link in the comments or something. I'd love to see it and get a little bit better idea of what's really going on there. Because I do think that there is a problem with our training process. A lot of now, in general, there are trainers out there who do a very good, excellent job, and it doesn't matter if you're one of the 6-month trainers or a 10-year trainer. It's my concern is how well trained you are and how diligent you are about doing your job the way you're supposed to be doing it. I know people who have 10, 20 years of experience, but who are lazy and know nothing but bullshit. They'll have bad habits, and they're going to teach the trainees bad habits, and or maybe it's stuff that might have been the ideal way to do things back in the day when before the ELDs, or when certain things were not different, like like sliding tandems. 250 pounds per hole is what what everybody would always say. But that was when trailers always seemed to have 4-inch hole pattern on them. Now you have trailers with 6-inch hole patterns. I.e. every single JCT trailer I've ever pulled has 6-inch pattern. When I drove for Sierra England, they had both 4 and 6, and the amount of weight per hole was different. 250 pounds per hole on the 4-inch pattern, 375 pounds per hole on the 6-inch pattern. A lot of people round that up to 400 though, but I have a specific reason why I use 375, and I won't go into that detail. I've already talked about it in the past, but it involves math, and I can, anyway, a lot of that stuff doesn't get taught properly to people. Like, so many times people, I even see it in the Sierra England Facebook group that I'm still in, or even the guys who are trying to train their trainees properly, but sometimes the trainee gets information or knowledge from some other sources that isn't exactly correct, or good information. Like one common thing, pulling a trailer with the tandems all the way back just because you're in strong winds, because it's more resistant to blowing over. I got a better idea for that. If you have to slide your tandems back to hope that you aren't going to get blown over as easily, I got news for you. You shouldn't be on the road in the first place then. And if you're in that position where you got to slide your tandems back to keep from getting blown over, you shouldn't even be on the road. Get off the road and park and wait till the winds calm down. Because even if it's not you, let's see, way station's open here, and alright, I got a bypass signal. Yeah, the signs there tell me I can bypass. So, and actually, yeah, both. We just got into Arizona, by the way, on I-10 heading westbound from New Mexico. Alright, but I know I've talked about Sierra England's training program before. I can't give you a whole lot of specifics about other companies' programs either. I do know from somebody I know from here on my channel who got trained at Prime, which tends to have a much better reputation for training people better. But even then, I know somebody who got trained by them, or by one of their trainers, and he had a not good training experience at all. So that's, and I think a lot of that has to do with there is no quality control process to verify. Yeah, there's no good process to verify, hey, are you getting trained properly? Give people go hardcore on quizzing them on this. Show me how you trip plan this or that. How are you going to get from here to there? And where are you going to do your shifts, and where are you going to stop and all of that? Show me what you know about weather planning. Show me what you know about scaling and weighing or whatever. What dimensions do you have to watch for in what states or whatever. Or tell me where you can find the information at least. There is no kind of process like that. I don't know if... I've not heard of companies, even the good ones, doing that kind of a thing. And I know for sure they don't do it at Sierra England, or at least they didn't. And so I'm pretty sure nobody does it. And that really, and that's a travesty to me that there is no process to make sure people are getting trained properly. I'm going to bring my Air Force experience into this. Air Force, and actually military in general, any of you guys who are veterans probably know this. If you're not fighting, you're training. And so if you're not doing real world missions, you're doing some kind of training of some sort usually. Even if you're not necessarily, for me, I was an aircraft mechanic. Back in the day when I was just starting out, I had to get trained on both knowledge and skills for a whole bunch of different things. Systems knowledge, and then also knowledge and skill about how to do certain tasks. And it used to be back in the day when I did it, where you had to demonstrate proficiency on a task to your trainer, and then on a lot of the tasks, you also had to have a third person involved to certify you, basically. So your trainer could sign you off, and then there was a third person who had to also watch you do the task separately, and to certify that you know what you're doing. So it's two people, two different qualified people vouching that you know what you're doing with this task. And this is what we call upgrade training. So we had 1, 3, 5, and 7 and 9 level skill levels in the Air Force. One level is basically just someone who's in basic training, or maybe in tech school, haven't completed their technical training. And then a 3 level would be an apprentice. Yeah, that would be somebody who is who's completed tech school but doesn't know much. They can't really do many tasks at all without supervision. And you have what's called a 5 level, which is a journeyman, who can basically do a lot of tasks unsupervised, but there are certain other tasks that they're not allowed to do because they don't have enough experience to be trusted to do it or whatever, or to be held responsible for certain tasks. And certain tasks, the 7 level tasks, which are craftsman jobs, same thing. You got to get signed off on them by someone who's already done them before. And like craftsman level positions are more supervisory in nature, like supervising a aircraft refuel or defuel, or a jack job, or something along that line. A number of things on there. But there's always that process, and I know Marine Corps aviation people also have something along that line, because guys I've worked with who were Marine Corps air wingers in the past have told me that's how they do things in the Marine Corps. Not quite the same way as the Air Force does, but it's not far off. So anyway, that's what I think needs to be included and put into trucking, where not just one person signing you off on this. I think someone at the company, there should be someone that's all they do is verify that these guys going through our pipeline, the training pipeline. I don't know why you turned your high beams on. I wasn't even trying to come over yet, but okay, whatever. I wasn't even signaling to move over yet, and he already had his high beams on. Or maybe he turned them on. Maybe he already had them on. I just didn't realize it. I don't know why he did that, but okay, whatever. But I'm like, yeah, this guy's moving in too close to me because my stupid piece of shit safety radar system saying that he's too close to me, and I'm going to get a following violation for him moving in front of me too soon now. Like, oh, well, no, I think he might just have his high beams on because he's stupid. Check that footage later on. Alright, anyway, going back to that, yeah, there's got to be some kind of a process there to verify that people are actually getting trained properly on their jobs. Because trainees go out on the road with the trainers, and a lot of times they get what we call being pencil whipped. And I use that same term all the time when I was in the Air Force, and I was a training guru in the Air Force. You know, everybody in the Air Force used it. But yeah, your records got pencil whipped. Trucking is the same thing. People get their records pencil whipped, and it says you're qualified even though you really aren't. You're not proficient. So yeah, this is seriously needing to get done somehow, and hopefully this ELDT process does something along this line. I know it's going to force companies to revamp their training programs somehow. To what extent, I just don't know, but I hope it includes a quality control process, because there is another topic here of who should and should not be a trainer. And I'll go ahead and broach the subject here. ideology versus reality. There's so much demand for new drivers. Sometimes you got to lower your standards on what you ideally want to have as a trainer versus what the reality of the situation dictates you're going to need or what you're going to have to work with. Case in point, myself included in this, everybody I know who's in the trucking industry, who has experience, always is going to tell you that nobody should be a trainer unless they have at least 2 or 3 years of experience, particularly winter weather driving experience, especially. Because winter weather, that's when a lot of the accidents happen, and that's a valid point. A lot of people don't know how do you teach someone how to drive in winter weather if you've never experienced it yourself and know how to, well, there is a way, and that way is know what exactly you're supposed to have been trained on yourself, and make sure your trainees are all getting trained on it. You're just equipping them with the knowledge so they know how to do it. You don't necessarily have to have the experience, but it would be really nice if you did. The case in point, my Sierra England days myself. I went through CDL school myself almost 6 years ago. The academic part of the class, they talked about winter weather, and they had this whole detailed video about how to drive in winter weather conditions. Now they would have this saying, up high and down low. Basically, when you're going up a steep grade on icy conditions, you want to be at high RPM and also have your interaxle differential locked in. And then when you're going down a grade, they say you want to be at low RPM and have your interaxle diff turned off. And then also, don't use Jake brakes when you're in those conditions. And if you do have any kind of an axle skid, if you have a steer axle skid, they tell you exactly what to do with that. If you have a drive axle skid, they tell you exactly what to do with it. If you have a trailer axle skid, they tell you exactly what to do with it. But you go through CDL school, and then you get on my truck as a trainer, at least when I was a Sierra England driver, it never failed. They got on my truck, and I know they taught this because I got taught it myself. I went through the same pipeline as them. You cannot tell me that Sierra England did not train these guys on how to do this stuff. But how many of them actually listen? Because their very first day on my truck, the very first day, I don't care if it's summer or winter time, I'm quizzing you on this. Now, I'm going to ask you, because I want to see how much attention you really did pay in CDL school. I would quiz everybody I trained. Alright, if you have a steer axle skid, how do you handle that? If you have a drive axle skid, how do you handle that, or whatever? And the majority of them had no idea how to answer that question. They would have to take a guess at how to do it. Sometimes they were on the right track with how to do it, but they weren't really sure. So that was a big clue to me. Okay, you did not pay attention in school. I know they taught this stuff. Even as bad as Sierra England's reputation is for being a puppy mill full of poorly trained drivers, it's not the drivers that are the new drivers the trainers with their 6 and 12 months of experience that are the problem always necessarily. Sometimes it is, but it's just as much the trainees themselves not giving a shit except, oh hey, I got my CDL in my hand, that's all I care about. Now I can just drive my truck down the road and it's as easy as pie. No, it's not easy. Well, easy to me, but not easy to the run-of-the-mill person who gets behind the wheel of a truck. And even then, there's still, it's a never-ending learning experience, even for me. Even 6 years in now, almost, I'm still learning new things, and you're gonna, if you're not, even at 30 plus years of experience, you should be learning something new. We got a guy here at JCT by the name of Larry Miles. I don't know anybody in the history of trucking who has more safe miles recorded than him. He's got 10 million miles. He actually just got off the road within the last year, I'd say, and now he works Actually at our terminal. It's a cool one. He did ice road trucking for a long time, and he's also done like routes to Alaska a lot. So that's where he racked up a lot of his miles. A lot of people were calling bullshit. How in the hell he's able to get those kind of miles? But no, they're verifiable miles. But even if you're Larry Miles, because I'm going to call Larry Miles the god of trucking with those kind of miles. Even he can learn something new. Never come out on this road, no matter how much experience you have, with the attitude that I know everything there is to know. I never make mistakes. I never make bad decisions. There's never anything that I can learn. Maybe something maybe the industry evolves in some way, or technology evolves in some way. I have to learn something. If you don't want to evolve with it, you're going to struggle. So, got to have that kind of a mindset, and newcomers to the industry need to have that ambition to actually not just get the CDL, but be the best damn CDL driver they can be as well. Have the most knowledge they can. And you don't want to dumb down and simplify stuff. Like a certain person at Cedar England who I clashed with a lot. And I'll freaking dime his name out, Dean Fisher. People don't like, people know him, and I may like him, but I can't stand the guy. I used to class with him all the time in one of the Cedar England groups because of that. He likes to dumb everything down, whereas I was like I guess the best way to describe it is, do you want a junior high school education on something, or do you want a college education on something and really know what you're doing? Or you just want, you want to go to a doctor? Do you want to have someone who only just went to high school and got a high school diploma, and what they know is from their biology class, taking care of your issues, or whatever they saw on TV? Oh yeah, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express. Or would you rather have someone who really was a doctor and who has all the academic knowledge and experience as well, teaching you that kind of stuff? I rest my case. Dean Fisher, he's a solid guy. As far as getting the job done himself, no doubt about it, and he can keep himself out of trouble. But when it comes to educating other people, he's not your guy. He's not the guy I think should be training people on, but he thinks he is. He thinks he's a god to that, I think. That's my words. So I don't really give a shit if that guy has something to say about this. I know a bunch of other people who have a lot of experience, who know him, and none of them like him either. Anyway, I shouldn't talk shit about the guy, but like I say, I have my own share of problems, and I'm subject to scrutiny as well. I don't really care. People are gonna have good reason to talk shit about me in some ways. So I will say, hey, I'm just as susceptible to, people have just as much room to talk shit about me as I'm going to say about him. I'll just put it that way. Like I say, he could be a decent guy, but it's just a personality clash between me and him. He oversimplifies where I overly complicate it. It's not that I overly complicate. I'm just too much on the other extreme from his extreme. It's kind of like putting a far left-wing leaning Democrat up against the far right-wing leaning conservative. How do you think that's going to go? That doesn't mean either one of them is right and the other one's wrong. It just means that, for their taste, they're so far apart in what they like and dislike that they're just not going to get along. That's all it is. So I don't want you to, if you guys know who Dean is, I don't want you to get the wrong impression on that. And say, I'm talking shit about him because I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum from him. And like I say, he has valid reason to talk shit about me because he's on the opposite end, and now we have different perspectives on that. So anyway, I don't need to ramble on about that. But that's basically what my perspective, my opinion is on that. Is we got to stop with this giving people just enough education to pass. And that's another Air Force term we had called a Jeep. A Jeep is somebody who has just enough education to pass. They can just enough to do the job, but not really know what they're doing, or not really know how to teach someone else how, like all the intricacies about it or whatever. They don't have any experience or necessarily even system knowledge to understand why this or that is done a certain way or something. So there is that. So you guys kind of get the gist of, we have a problem with the trucking training program as a whole. And going back to this whole 2 to 3 years plus of experience is what a trainer should have versus who really is training. Okay, like I said, reality is, how many drivers out here have the requisite experience and credentials? Not just experience, number of years of experience, but do they have all the right kind of experience too? As a whole, all the check boxes marked themselves that they know this and that or whatever. Just because they have years of experience doesn't necessarily mean they really know that much. Some know a ton and make really good use of their experience level, or their years of experience, and others don't. So that's my point. Just don't assume that somebody is really someone you want to listen to just because they are experienced, and don't assume that somebody who is not experienced is not going to be a fit trainer just because of their lack of experience. If they were trained extremely well by a very experienced driver who is very knowledgeable too, but they only have 6 months experience, would you rather listen to them or someone who has maybe 10 years of experience but they're trained by someone who was just full of bullshit and trained them and didn't really train them much and they kind of learned on their own and really just enough to do the job is all they cared about? Which one of those two guys would you want training you? Now that's something that might want to be food for thought for you guys. Second, like I say, if we do set a requirement, all right, we're not going to allow people to train unless they have this much experience. Now, how many people in the industry have that amount of experience and are actually willing to be trainers? Most of them don't want to be trainers. They don't have the patience to deal with trainees who have attitude problems or don't listen or whatever else. Most of them are so used to having their own living space, and they don't want their living space disrupted by somebody else living in it with them. So that's the reality of our industry. There are tons of drivers here who have 2-3 plus years of experience. Why aren't they doing the training though? Because they don't want to. That's why. And if they don't want to, but we have so many newcomers to the industry needing trainers to train them, who's going to do it for them? You have to have someone. You're going to have somebody there. Either you're going to have a never-ending line of people waiting hopelessly to ever get into a truck to get trained on, which some of them are going to give up and say, you know what, screw this. I'm tired of waiting. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to just. We already have a problem with retention in the industry, a driver churn. I listened to a blog a while back, a few months back, that one of my Air Force friends, who actually was prior Marine Corps aircraft mechanic, he sent me this blog and asked my input on it. And basically, there was a part of this blog. These two guys doing doctoral research at their, I can't remember what university they were at, but one of them was, I think, a sociology, what do you call that? Postgraduate student, and the other one, I can't remember what he was doing, but they were both doing postgraduate doctoral studies. And the one did a study on Actually, he collaborated with the California Department of Motor Vehicles, and he figured out how many drivers there are in California with Class A CDLs. And then he looked at how many actual how many jobs there are in California for CDL drivers. And he found out that I think there were more than twice as many. I don't remember the exact number. I think he said there were like 240 or some odd thousand total CDL driver positions in California. Whether they're occupied or not, don't know. It sounded like that's how many total there were available, though, or between occupied and available together or something. I don't know. And California DMV records that he got showed that there were, I think, 450,000 people who were still CDLA qualified in the state. So we have twice as many people in the state who are qualified to operate Class A vehicle, truck and trailer, as there are even jobs in California for that kind of work. But we have so many open positions because there's so much driver churn. People come to the industry, realize they either don't have the aptitude for it. As I say, it's not as easy as driving your car. There's a lot that can go wrong. Very easy to make mistakes that are going to cost do at least damage and cost money, or even kill people or do a lot of great bodily harm to people. So it's not don't come to the industry if you think that it's just going to be just like driving your car. It's as easy as doing that. It's not. Try riding a motorcycle first and see how you do with that. If you ride a motorcycle, you get that mentality where every mistake made, if you get in an accident, it doesn't matter who's at fault, you're the one who's going to die, more than likely. Even if it's the other guy's mistake, you have to do the defensive driving for them, because your ass is going to die, and you can't blame somebody for being at fault for something if you're dead in the first place. You're not even alive to blame them. Now turn that the other way around, where you're the driver who is going to kill everybody else in most cases, and not be the guy and being responsible for someone's death, and you end up in jail for some stupid little mistake you made, or if it is your fault. And even if it is somebody else's fault, you don't want that on your conscience. You don't want someone else's death on your conscience that you could have possibly done something to help prevent. So that's the mentality you got to have out here. And in reality, though, we don't have enough trainers with the requisite qualifications and years of experience, so they have to resort to using less experienced drivers to keep up with the demand for that's coming into the industry and that we need. If we don't keep putting new drivers in seats, new American drivers in seats, which is going to be a good tie-in for the next couple of things here. We're going to have to start resorting to seeing a lot more foreigners come into the country with work visas. Dude, you were already going at least. I was thinking you were going 70 plus when you were passing me, and now you're barely doing the same speed, and you need my help to get it over. Fucking idiots.
Wait your turn.
I just love it when people pass me up when I'm already doing the same speed, and then they suddenly slow down and barely work their way up. Alright. Okay, so now nothing against you guys who are foreigners who watch my channel, because I know there are plenty of you guys who watch my channel who are from other countries, and or even CDL drivers in your own country and are interested in coming to the U.S. and driving as truck drivers here in the U.S. I'm all for you guys coming over here. If if that makes a better life for yourself, as long as you come here, know the English language, which is actually a federal CDL requirement, and as long as you can drive safely and courteously, I don't really care where you come from. So, and I know I've had drivers on my live streams before who were from I think there was a guy from Pakistan. I know there's a guy from Morocco. I've got English people who watch the channel. Plenty of other places. So, let's say I encourage you guys to come here if we need drivers. Just don't come here with the same mentality that a lot of the drivers who are foreigners do come here with, which is driving like fucking maniacs or with not a hint of courtesy toward other drivers out here, or any idea how to drive in winter weather. Because it's pretty bad when I got hit by my truck got hit while I was parked. Yeah, and I'm not trying to be racist here, guys, but for those of you guys who are watching my channel from other parts of the world, take heed, okay? Yeah, this is not my words here. This is when I got hit by the guy who backed into the side of my truck here a few months ago in Santa Rosa, it happened to be a Punjabi driver from Illinois. Okay, it could have been anybody. It could have been a white person. It could have been a black person or whatever from the U.S. that did the damage. If you're just not well trained on how to back safely, goaling only gets you so far. There are little intricacies with backing that don't get effectively taught by people. And people don't learn it, and of course they're going to have backing accidents because of it. I just happened to get hit by a guy who was Punjabi. And when Santa Rosa PD officer came over and I gave him the information and all that, he's like, why am I not surprised that the guy's last name was Singh or whatever it was? Yeah, I think it was Singh. Apparently he's so used to these kind of accidents involving Punjabi drivers. Now, again, I don't want to be racist, because there are good Punjabi drivers out here who I think are unfairly treated by a lot of American drivers. I see it a lot, and it's especially the younger guys who are the problem. Now, younger guys of any ethnic group and any nationality are the ones who are the biggest problem in the industry. Now, I see guys out here who are, maybe older Punjabi guys are Sikhs. They have their Sikh turban on and they have their long beards and all that. I see a number of those guys who are actually decent and courteous drivers out here. So don't act like they're all just a bunch of bad people if you're American. They're not. Make sure they're trained properly though, and you have a different culture, a driving culture that goes on, I believe, in foreign countries than what goes on here, and that's a culture clash that you're going to have to learn to live with and deal with when you come over here, unless you want to get yourself killed in an accident or put in jail because you killed somebody because you did something stupid. Alright, so again, I have an accident video on my channel of a truck that ran another car into a guardrail, into a K-rail. There's a couple of Russian guys driving it, white guys, so it's not just, it's anybody can cause an accident. It doesn't matter what your nationality is or ethnicity is, but you are going to be at a disadvantage just because if you are from different countries, regardless of ethnicity, because whatever driving culture is normal where you live might be vastly different from here, and there's an adjustment you have to learn there on how to do things safely and professionally, and not make people want to kick your ass or shoot you or something. Because there are people out here in America, not me, I'm professional. I'm not going to sit there and threaten to fight you or try to fight you or do anything worse than that with you. But there are drivers out here who are willing to fight and do something stupid, or even get even more stupid and shoot you and kill you over something stupid that happened on the road. Or even just the slightest bit of disrespect shown to them on the road is all it can take to trigger them, because they're already having a bad enough time as it is, and now you just flip their trigger switch. So watch that. Watch out for those behaviors here. Drive courteously and professionally as much as you can here, and you'll have less problems. All right, but yeah, there's a training issue there. Alright, I think I'm already rambling on too much with this particular subject, so I'm going to go ahead and move on, because I still have something else I want to talk about here, and that would be the subject of 18 to 20-year-old American drivers getting interstate CDL licenses. Right now, you only have to be 18 to get a Class A CDL anyway. However, you have to be at least 21 to be able to do interstate. By interstate, that means you can't go from one state to another state, even the next state over, with the in a commercial vehicle, unless you were age 21 or older. You can do intrastate, which means you can drive a commercial vehicle for commercial purposes if you're age 18 to 20. As long as you stay in your own state. Okay? Case in point, let's take Texas. I-10, which is the interstate I'm on right now, and the state that Texas is the state that I picked up my current load from. It is 880 miles across from the New Mexico-Texas border to the Texas-Louisiana border. You can run an entire shift right from Anthony, Texas, right where the state line is in New Mexico. Run an entire shift and still be in the state of Texas. And you'd be on the same interstate too, going straight toward Louisiana, and you're still going to be at least 150, 200, 250 miles away from the state line by the time you're done with your shift. So you're already kind of OTR as it is when you're in a geographically gigantic state like Texas is. And as it is, Texas and California are the two states with the most CDL drivers in the U.S. I believe Texas has the most, and then California second, if I remember reading right a while back. So you can do OTR as an 18 to 20-year-old and never leave the state of Texas. So what's the difference if you're going from Texas to Louisiana or Texas to California or something? That's at least one of my thoughts on that. And second, because a lot of people are saying, "Oh, great, that's what we need is more inexperienced drivers causing accidents out here." Well, they have some valid concerns there. Inexperienced drivers of any age need to be more well supervised and more well trained than they actually are being, and make sure they know exactly what the consequences are if you do this or that. So, and then put it another way, if you do happen to be one of those racist types, or maybe even not just racist, but anti-international drivers coming to America, and because of you might have a perception about international drivers and their stereotypes, their stereotypical behaviors. Well, which would you rather have? Would you rather have 18 to 20-year-old American drivers who can already have a CDL anyway, but to a limited extent? Or would you rather have one of these foreigners driving that same truck that an 18-year-old American can be driving and can actually speak and read English? I mean, what do you really want there? You can't have your cake and eat it too. So, ideally, I mean, again, I don't even know where my own ideal verse stands on this subject myself. I just know that reality is I don't really see any real harm in having 18 to 20-year-old American drivers get interstate CDLs, you know, where it could even possibly offset some of the foreign stuff that goes on here, which we all know there is a stereotype that happens, unfortunately. But like I said, if you're one of those guys who has problems with people of a certain ethnicity or nationality, whatever, being in American semi-trucks, well, like I said, be careful what you wish for. Because the reality is this is not a utopian world. And everybody's idea of utopia is different. So your idea of perfect world, my idea of perfect world, and somebody else's idea of perfect world can all be three completely different things. Sorry, this isn't your perfect world. You're not God. And then sometimes you have to live with reality that sometimes you have to deal with the problem to fix another problem. And that's where politics comes into play, which I'm not even going to talk about. Alright, so those are the two main topics I wanted to talk about in this video. I have one other that I'll kind of talk about. It won't take very long, I think. And that is the subject of blindly following GPS devices. Okay, and in effectively trip planning. Alright, now I have some first-hand experience with this particular area that I'm going to talk about. And this would be the city of Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. Mechanicsburg is on the southwest side of Harrisburg. It's basically a suburb of Harrisburg. Now, when I drove for Sierra England had, and I found out this week by asking a question in the Sierra England Facebook group, found out they still use this lot to this day, this particular drop yard in Mechanicsburg. It's basically right by where Carlisle Carriers and Rail Transport are at. I can't remember the exact lot, but it's right over there. They actually get that one of those guys' lots gets used as a drop yard for Sierra England. I've personally been to it. Now the problem is that came up when I just got kind of curious because I get email updates from CDLLife.com. These different articles that they write on their website. And one of these emails that I just got the other day just happened to be about drivers who are constantly trying to make right turns on, or making turns from Main Street onto South Walnut Street in the city of Mechanicsburg. I don't know these streets from the hole in the wall because I don't know that area. I'm almost never in Pennsylvania anymore. And I sure as hell don't know that area. So I just got curious. Well, I've been to Mechanicsburg before, and I know that Sierra England had a drop yard there. So I got curious where exactly this intersection was in question that they were having problems with. And then I looked around to try to figure out, well, why would trucks be trying to turn at that intersection anyway? Because this intersection was right there.
Get your ass out there.
It was right there in downtown Mechanicsburg. And then when I zoomed out a little bit, I moved around, followed Walnut Street up and down, whatever. Figured out that Walnut Street turns into the same street that the drop yard and terminals are all at. They're in between Main Street and US 11. All right, so I figured out what's going on here. It's starting to get rained on here. Is that drivers are probably coming across US 11 from the east side of town there by looks like Camp Hill and Lemoyne and New Cumberland area. And when they're trying to get over to those terminal areas or drop yard areas, what they're doing is their GPS devices are telling them to take State Route 641, which is Main Street, across over to South Walnut, and then turn north on South Walnut and go up the street and then make a right about a mile or a couple miles up the road to get to where the drop yard is at, or terminals are at. And I said most of these drivers who are doing this are not from the area, and they all have a common theme. They're all following their GPSs. How many times do we have to keep telling you that? Stop following your damn GPS device and fly me. Again, I posted about this in the Steer England Facebook group because I thought it would be relevant for Steer England drivers to learn about this stuff since they have that drop yard. ACT, it doesn't have any relevance. They don't do much in Pennsylvania. We hardly have anything going on up there. We don't have a drop yard or anything. A lot of ACT drivers care about it. Anyway, I'll show you on the map here. Basically, there's an X marking the spot where the intersection that is the problem is. And then over on directly to the east of where that X is where trucks are coming from to get over there. And then up at the top, straight up to the north from where that X is at, is where you really should be going to from Highway 11, from Route 11. Go to take Route 11 across up to the north end and then come back down. If you look at the map, you will see that that starred location that I have on there, on that screenshot, is actually closer to Main Street than it is to US 11. So naturally, a lot of GPSs are going to tell you to take Main Street because it's a more direct route, and it's and it's closer, and the location is closer to Main Street than it is to 11. At least that's what it looks like. But in reality, there's a sign right there. You can even go on Google Street View when you're going westbound on Main Street, right before you get to Walnut. There's a sign right there saying trucks over 25 feet long, I think it is, no turns in either direction. Trucks keep doing it though, and so they're ticketing. They're gonna start giving truckers expensive tickets for trying to make that turn because there's a sign right there saying don't go that way. And these people are all saying, well, how do I get to my? I don't know how to get to my location on my destination, which is right down that street. Well, look on a damn map. I don't need a GPS to tell me that. And if you're also looking in more zoomed in, where the intersection is, you have a bunch of white streets there, and they're more densely arranged. Where you see more densely arranged roads, they're more likely to be lower speed limits, more likely to have residential there, where even if it is truck accessible, probably not somewhere a truck really should be, just because of people living there don't want to hear truck noises. So the less truck traffic that goes through there, the better. And when you see that kind of thing, there's a better chance that there might even be a truck restriction, because specifically because of that exact reason. They don't want it to be a noisy area that just trucks make noise, and they might not want trucks in that area just so the residents can have some peace and quiet. And when you look up where US 11's at, where you turn onto that same street, it's a lot more sparse. The streets are more sparsely arranged. You're more likely to find higher speed limit and an easier time in a truck going that way as well. Just looking at Google Maps alone, not even telling it to navigate for me, tells me that. But people don't like Google Maps, but if you just use it as a map only, and then learn how roads actually have a level of hierarchy to them. If you can even play around with this on Google Maps. Zoom your map all the way out where you can see the entire U.S. At that level, you won't see any roads at all on the map. Now start zooming in. Just slowly zoom your way in more and more. Next thing you know, you're going to see a map of, you're going to see a bunch of lines in different areas. But the only lines you're going to see are going to be interstates and highway on basically limited access roads like turnpikes, state highways that are also limited access, like freeways as I call it. You're going to see that kind of stuff. But you won't see any of the other roads. Now keep zooming in a little bit more and more, and you're going to start seeing U.S. highways next. Keep zooming in a little bit more. You might even see some of the higher level state highways. And then keep zooming in some more, then all the state highways start to pop up. And then you zoom in more, and now mind you, all these highways, these numbered highways are all yellow or orangish kind of colored. Or I always have traffic data on mine, so I can't. I want to say interstates are even orange, but they're at different thickness levels, so they show up at different zoom levels. Now, after you get past all those numbered highways, different levels of highways, tiers of highways, you'll start seeing white roads, thicker white roads, and then thinner white roads. And the thicker white roads tend to be the arterial streets, as we call them. Those are the ones that provide direct access to the interstates and other limited access roads. And then zoom in, you might only see the thick white ones first, and then you zoom in a little bit more, then you'll see both the thick and the thin white ones. The thin white ones, in general, if you're in a truck, try to stay off of them at all costs. Don't go on the thin white roads unless you absolutely have to be on them. And that's a good general rule that should help keep you out of trouble when it comes to trip planning. So, and like I say, trip planning, you should know step by step, turn by turn, every turn you're expecting to make. And then if you have a GPS, even if it's a truck GPS, don't blindly follow it. Use it, if you're going to use that GPS, use it properly and make sure that it's set up to take you on the exact same route that you've already trip planned to take. And if it deviates from what you're doing, don't follow the GPS. Follow your own step by step. And the GPS should be a guide to help you know how close you're getting to a certain turn that you know you're going to make. That's about it. Or what your distance is from your destination. A lot of drivers I know who have even a lot more experience, a lot more CDL experience than I have, use GPSs. They don't necessarily need the GPS. They only use them just because it's a tool to help them know how far away, how many miles away they are from their destination, and what an approximate ETA would be. And that's it. They don't usually use it for directing them on how to get from point A to point B blindly. And I don't want you guys to do that either. And that's if you are blindly following it, you're either lazy or you're being improperly trained, and you're going to get yourself in a situation, in an undesirable situation, more frequently, I would say, than somebody who effectively trip plans. Myself, I effectively trip plan. And I talked about inexperienced drivers earlier. Watch Riding with Dave sometime. Yeah, Riding with Dave is not a very experienced driver. He's even showed some of his mistakes on his channel. But I can tell he has he does a good job of planning out his trip. He does make mistakes, and I'm not going to say I don't make routing mistakes as well. They do happen, but not as often when you do like what we're doing. Dave regularly even talked about where he looks at the satellite view of the customer he's going to. Might even look at street view stuff. And I don't know if he's as thorough with the trip planning on Google Maps as I am, but he does effectively trip plan with Google Maps. He's not a very experienced guy, but he does. He has a much better idea what to expect before he even gets there, even if it's an unfamiliar place, than a lot of people who have, could have 20 plus years of experience, but are being lazy and blindly following a GPS. Oh yeah, my GPS is a truck GPS. It won't get me wrong. Oh yes, it will. I got friends who have truck GPSs, and they'll all tell you that they've had problems with their with at least occasionally with a route here and there. So don't think that it won't do you wrong. All right. that's all I have. It's plenty of footage here, probably over an hour if I had to guess, and I don't want it to be incredibly long. So we'll go ahead and end this one here. And it's not too long before I'm going to be shut down in Benson, Arizona anyway. I have enough clock to get to Tucson, but I don't think I want to shut down there. So I tentatively plan to stop in Benson, which is not even half an hour away. So good time for me to go ahead and end this one. And wish you all farewell. I hope you guys enjoyed getting my take on some of this stuff. And I know some of you guys might not like my take on things, but say we're all entitled to our opinions and our perspectives, whatever, and that's fine. So do the best I can with you guys. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I don't. You should never expect to be perfect yourself. Or anyway, you all have a great night, and we'll probably see you in San Bernardino. All right, peace.